So it's no secret that racism is on the forefront of both the Republican agenda and the Republican brand. And people like Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, pretty much anybody who's in a prominent position to be a conservative commentator or insider or politician, they fully push forth that brand. So we're just going to get straight into it. We're going to listen to what Ben Shapiro has to say in all his brilliance about why Derek Chauvin should be pardoned. You know, the police officer who kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 10 minutes while he begged him to get off. And, you know, if he would have gotten off of his neck any point within those 10 minutes, he would still be alive today, or likely would still be alive today. And we all remember what happened. You know, the whole nation, well, much of the nation was very upset. There were a lot of protests, and Ben Shapiro was mad about the riots. You know, the right thing to do would be to free Derek Chauvin, because you know that would go over very well with the public. I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, he's mad that people were upset about George Floyd's death. And so the answer to that, the solution to that in Ben Shapiro's mind is, oh, well, let's just free the guy who not only murdered George Floyd, but sparked national outrage and grievance. You know, because again, you know, we supposed to just sit back and take that. We supposed to just be cool with it. So let's get into what Ben Shapiro has to say. I actually have not listened to this. We'll be reacting to it together.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges. If we are talking about reversing the evils of the last several years in American life, obviously COVID and its handling was a massive evil. Destroyed the economy, set us on a path to fiscal insanity, destroyed children.
Okay, and again, so this is I have to pause in here because the way the Republicans talk about COVID, they always somehow forget that Donald Trump was president while all that went down. So they're mad about the shutdowns, they're mad about the fact that they had to wear masks and all that, but they somehow forget that Donald Trump was the one who was the head of the snake at that point in time. You know, they say that the snake rots from the head down, or the fish rots from the head down, or something like that. You know, basically it's a saying that, you know, if you want to blame somebody, look up to who has all the power. But, you know, Donald Trump somehow escapes all of the blame for everything that happened.
Led to massive health-related cover-ups, just horrifying all the way around. And President Trump has taken on a lot of those things.
Okay.
But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd.
No, Ben. It was the fact that Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. That's why there were so many riots and protests. It's not the fact that, oh, we have to put Derek Chauvin in prison, because the only people who are mad about that are racist white people like yourself. That no one else was mad about that. What the majority of people were upset about who were out in the streets was the fact that police violence goes so unchecked in this country, that there's a real issue with that police officers and law enforcement abuse their power on a routine, regular basis. It's not, oh no, this white police officer who killed a black man unnecessarily, he has to go to prison. That's why you were upset, because, you know, you want to keep the authority where it's supposed to be. You know, they're supposed to get away with things like that because, you know, because George Floyd, oh, he was on fentanyl. His neck being kneeled on for 10 minutes had nothing to do with his passing. I mean, this is stupid.
The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd.
Okay, so, well, I'll let him. This is so hard to get through. Again, so it doesn't matter that he was kneeling on his neck for 10 minutes. That doesn't matter at all. You know, I mean, this is just just racism. That's all this is. It's just racism. Who cares that a black man died? Free the white police officer. Poor him.
George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of even the tape.
Oh no, my bad, y'all. Damn. Hold up. My bad.
Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large.
And again, Ben Shapiro talking about this caused the worst race relations in his lifetime. So let's let Derek Chauvin out to make white people happy.
Segments of even the tape that was shown had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck. The autopsy of George Floyd showed that he had no damage to his trachea, that probably George Floyd died of excited delirium. There were no accusations, even at trial, that Derek Chauvin had committed a hate crime against George Floyd or that he targeted George Floyd because of his race.
So then why did he get found guilty? Was everybody was just tripping though? Because it's very rare that police officers face any penalties for stuff like this. They get away with this all the time. So there had to have been some strong evidence to get him his 22.5-year prison sentence or whatever it is. That there had to be some strong evidence there. Otherwise, the jury would have just let him out. But whatever. It's so unfair for Derek Chauvin. This is so fucking stupid.
Nonetheless, on the basis of extraordinarily scanty evidence, and despite the fact that there was massive pressure on the jury, that the mayor of Minneapolis paid a settlement to the George Floyd family immediately, that the president of the United States suggested that Derek Chauvin was guilty right off the bat, that the jurors were being openly threatened and admitted as much. Despite all,
and again, keep this in mind. Again, the reason, and a lot of the reason too that he's talking about this. Well, yeah, he wants this to happen, but two, he's rage baiting people, and he knows it's going to get a lot of attention online. But of course, a big issue is that so many people agree with this. Now, I mean, I just how if we're going to pardon people, we should pardon Derek Chauvin. Like you can't think of anybody else who deserves to be pardoned more than Derek Chauvin. Ben, no one else comes to mind. I mean, it could be people who no one's ever heard of, but who were wrongfully imprisoned. Maybe they're in there for a crime they didn't commit, or they're in there for nonviolent drug offenses or something like that. Maybe we should pardon those people, more of those people, before we pardon someone like Derek Chauvin, particularly if you're worried and concerned about race relations in this country. Again, because if you pardon Derek Chauvin, Ben, that people would be outraged by that. So apparently we supposed to just, bend over and take it and say nothing. This is just
all of that. Derek Chauvin was convicted on federal charges and pled guilty to federal charges. Derek Chauvin should, in fact, be pardoned on that. We will be covering that a lot more in coming weeks because I think it is worthwhile to remember that there is a man who is rotting in prison because the media decided in the middle of 2020 that they were going to turn a tragic law enforcement stop that ended with the death of a man who had a significant problem with drugs and pre-existing health problems.
Again, so who cares that he lost his life? Whatever.
Into the raison d'etre of the entire 2020 election. And it led to vast chaos. It led to, again, the destruction of racial comedy in the United States, $2 billion in property damage, and a guy rotting in prison.
He just said it led to the destruction of racial comedy. Man, this dude is a clown. He really is. I mean, he just hasn't aged well. I mean, he looks fine. I'm not saying like he looks bad. He looks fine. But 10 years ago, Ben Shapiro was, this hot, he's the, right-wing intellectual. But he hasn't progressed at all. This is such a stupid take. Again, like I said, there's so many other people that we could pardon and should pardon before Derek Chauvin. Ben Shapiro knows. He knows that this would lead to outrage and all the things that he's saying he's concerned about, property damage and race relations in this country. So let's make them worse. Ben, this is literally one of the worst takes I've ever heard from Ben Shapiro. This is ridiculous.
Prison, who the evidence demonstrates certainly was not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in that case. If we're going to talk about delivering pardons, President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges. He can't pardon on state charges. Derek Chauvin, who is convicted of the murder of George Floyd. As I say, we will be covering this pretty extensively in the coming weeks.
I mean, this is the equivalent of let's say, it's not even the equivalent because someone's dead. George Floyd is dead, but this is somewhat the equivalent to something like, let's pardon let's pardon a sexual assaulter. Let's pardon somebody who battered a woman because what? Why? Oh, it's kind of her fault, so we shouldn't hold him too responsible because she was wearing, a short skirt and heels, and men can't resist when they see. I mean, that's the level of stupidity that this is on. I mean, again, this is literally one of the worst takes I've ever heard from Ben Shapiro.
Right now, you should go to pardonderek.com and sign our petition asking President Trump to grant justice to Officer Derek Chauvin. That is pardon, P-A-R-D-O-N, Derek.com, P-A-R-D-O-N-D-E-R-E-K.com.
And again, you care so much about police officers, but I mean, as far as I know, I've never heard Ben Shapiro have any complaints about the fact that Donald Trump freed all those January 6th rioters. What about that? Like, people who literally ran up in the Capitol, desecrated the fabric of the nation. This dude tried to overthrow the government, and thousands of people joined in on his call. Police officers were very badly injured. Some of them died. Some of them committed suicide. And he pardoned those people. Where's your outrage about that? Again, easily one of the absolute worst takes I've ever heard from Ben Shapiro. Hey now, thank you so much for tuning in here at Politics and Paper. If you like what I do and you support my work, go ahead and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it and really helps to support what we do here.